Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2011 X-Men prequel, X-Men First Class. The film is directed by Matthew Vaughn and it stars James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence and Kevin Bacon. Now, this film follows the early origin stories of Professor X, Magneto, Mystique, as well as quite a few others, and it's set in the 60s. We meet Charles Xavier as a young man. He can walk at this point, and he is kind of approaches the government, gives them more information on mutants, and essentially he goes up against Kevin Bacon's Sebastian Shaw, a Nazi who was very committed to starting World War III, a nuclear war. Professor X meets Eric, who is Magneto. They become close friends and they recruit of quite a few more X-Men into the First Class and go head to head against Sebastian Shaw and his group of evil mutants. Right. What are my thoughts on X-Men First Class? Well, I'll be honest, when this came out at the time, or when it was due to come out, I didn't have an awful lot of interest in this. I remember having like X-Men fatigue at that point. We'd had 3 X-Men films. We'd had X-Men Origins Wolverine, and it was looking like they were just kind of looking for a reason just to give us an X-Men film, just get it out there, see if it can make money. So I personally was starting to feel a bit of X-Men fatigue at this point. I don't actually think I even went to the cinema to see this one. But when I did get round to watching it, I was blown away by this film. It absolutely was the shot in the arm that the franchise needed. It really refreshed it, gave it a different twist and perspective. And yes, you could argue that these version of the X-Men films kind of muddied the waters in regards to timelines and all sorts of stuff from the previous X-Men films that we've got. And I'm not here to kind of give you, timeline, X-Men timelines and stuff. There are many of those videos on YouTube as it stands. But I don't put a lot of stock in that anyway, to be fair. If a film's good and it's entertaining, I'm willing to kind of put some of those things to one side. And this film is absolutely all of those things. It is brilliantly made and very, very entertaining. I personally wouldn't have thought that James McAvoy would make a good young Charles Xavier, but he does. I personally wouldn't have thought that Michael Fassbender would have made a young Magneto, but he does. Neither of them try to impersonate their peers that came before them. They just are those characters, and you soon kind of put that out of your mind that they don't act anything like them. They don't need to. These are young men, different people. And we get to kind of meet them at a different stage in their life. You could argue as well with Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, you say, well, how did she become so villainous later when, her and Charles were so close? And you kind of look forward to all these kind of questions being answered as the film goes on and as the series of films go on, if you like. And the film does that. And the film also gives us a really credible and strong villain in Kevin Bacon. I thought his character was very, very good indeed. We learned more about, that scene in the original X-Men where we see Magneto as a young boy, bending the metal fences because his parents were being taken away from him in the camps. And what he kind of does to him. This character, Sebastian Shaw, kills his mother in front of Magneto. So he's on a literal mission of revenge, is Magneto, and he's fueled by that. And even though he puts it to one side to team up with Charles and the other X-Men that they recruit, it's never really gone. There's this real dark side to Eric Leshner in this film. Magneto, and obviously where it's going to end, sort of thing, but it's a fascinating journey to go along with them. There's some really memorable moments in the film, and I think this film also has one of the strongest climaxes, I think, of any of the X-Men films. Really engaging, really interesting, some dramatic stuff taking place, some cool effects, some cool fights, and it's just a really nicely put together X-Men film, and it's one of those that almost doesn't have a great deal of weaknesses. The cast are different enough to kind of not make sense, but when you actually take a step back, it's perfect casting. You've got Nicholas Hoult as well as Beast, and we had Kelsey Grammer as Beast in previous films, and you're thinking, well, how's that going to work? But it does. Everything just works. It all kind of finds its own place in the film. And it's almost, it's a bit like an espionage film at times as well. It doesn't just feel like a superhero film. It feels like world events that are taking place, real life world events that these mutants are kind of taking part in. And I just think it was a clever way to go. Matthew Vaughn, we all know, is a very, very talented director. He's given us some really, really cool films. This is arguably his best film to date. It's just super entertaining in every aspect. I thought the effects as well were outstanding. I think the only effects you could argue were a little bit dodgy, were a couple of Beast effects here and there, where the CGI just didn't. It looked a bit cartoony at times. So by the end of the film, we got a lot of the answers that we're kind of looking for at the beginning of the film. We see two different groups of mutants going off in different directions, and that's kind of the start of where the Professor X and Magneto journeys go, sort of thing. But it was just great, this film. The absolutely nailed the tone of the film, the excitement of the film. There's even moments of amusement in the film. It's just pitched perfectly, I think, and I think this is definitely one of the finest X-Men films that we've had to date. I'll let you decide, where you would rank this. I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to rank the X-Men films by the end of reviewing all of these. If that's something you guys are interested in, then I will probably do it. Interestingly as well, while I was kind of researching this film, I didn't know that James McAvoy, when he learned he was going to be cast in this film, shaved his head to get ready for the role, and not realising that actually Charles in this film had a full head of hair. Jennifer Lawrence and Nicholas Hoult apparently started dating on this film set, as did Michael Fassbender and Zoe Kravitz as well. So, yeah, interesting. I don't think any of those relationships lasted, but, that's just the way it is, I guess. But yeah, next on the list to review is The Wolverine. Quite looking forward to that. I've only seen that film once, and I went to the cinema to see that with my son back in the day, who was obsessed with Wolverine at the time. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out again, guys. But thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed checking out this review for X-Men First Class. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.